Screen Slurps.
Hello and welcome to Screen Slurps, the movie review podcast where we discuss everything that is good, that is bad, and that is savage in the world of cinema. I'm Adam Meisner.
I'm Laura Herlocker.
And this week, we are treading the desert throughout the sand, searching for nothing but the best. You say it, Laura.
Spice.
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 That's right. We are searching for spice in the new Dune. That's right. The new Dune. There's been a few of them, at least one by David Lynch, but the brand new film Dune. Come on. Yes.
Just like, there's been a few of them.
Yeah, I mean,
No, there has.
there has been an attempt at making one before David Lynch made his,
David Lynch's is from the 80s. You actually reviewed that on the podcast before I joined.
That's right.
And then there was a mini series that Sci-Fi made in 2000. I think 2000. Straight 2000.
Yes.
Mini series. And then now we got this one.
And I gotta say, and I'll put on an accent for it. Through my research, I saw they tried to make a Dune film before David Lynch's Dune, and it got put down. So, not put down in a good way either. It did not get made. It got rejected. So, yeah, it was going through development, through pre-production, and then it was denied. So this Dune, 2021 Dune, is what we are talking about, the brand new film Dune. But before we get into the brand new Dune and talk all about it,
How many times will we say Dune?
Don't make fun of me. We got a little special thing we do on Screen Slurps every week, and that is called our Side Slurps. That's right, listeners, our Side Slurps. If you're a new listener to our show, our Side Slurps are things we have done other than watch the main film of the week. Things like checking out other TV shows, other movies, maybe even going to other hot places in town, like the local Irish pub. Who knows? I don't know. I really don't. Laura, what have you been doing this past week?
I hope you know kind of what I've been doing. We spend a lot of time.
Maybe I just keep my eyes closed the entire time we hang out. I just, I look at the wall, maybe.
Who cares what Laura's doing? I'm in my own world. Okay.
Tell me what you do.
Will do. This week, I finally got back into TV shows. So I feel like I go through these slumps where I won't watch like any TV shows. And then I'll go through like a month where I just binge like a ton of things. So I'm finally getting back into it and like watching a lot of shows and catching up on things that I missed. So I watched all of After Party this week, which is an Apple TV Plus series. A lot of fun. It has like a really great cast. Alana from Broad City is in it. Dave Franco is in it. And essentially it's about a high school reunion. And at the reunion, someone is murdered. Dave Franco's character. And then the detective spends the rest of the series like interviewing each of the people there to try and figure out who was the murderer. And each episode is kind of a different genre of film. So one episode is like a musical, and another episode is an animated version. Another episode is like an action film. So
is this show a hot commodity for the story, or just because everyone's obsessed with Dave Franco?
I mean, Dave Franco's dead. But he shows up in the flashbacks. He's not even, I was not watching it for him, though I do love him. I was watching it for the whole idea of it. I mean, you know me, I love like murder stuff.
I think it's an honest question, because, you know, you could have just started watching the show thinking, hey, Dave Franco's in this, and, you know, Dave Franco's pretty cool.
He is. He's a great actor. I do like Dave Franco a lot. No, I just love the idea that like every episode you're hearing the same story, but from a different person's point of view. So you get different like parts, or, you know, like start piecing things together. So it feels like you are like the detective also trying to like piece things together and figure out who's lying and what actually happened. And honestly, I had no idea who eventually comes up to be the murderer. I was so surprised. Like he was not, well, I just ruined part of it. It was a he. They were not on my radar like at all through the, like any of the episodes about being the murderer, which I guess they should have been now that I know it, like looking back on it. But it was a really good show. I liked it a lot. You would probably enjoy it, Adam.
I'll have to give it a shot. I'll have to check it out.
The other show I actually just started yesterday. I watched the first episode of The Gilded Age, which is the new series by the creator of Downton Abbey, Julian Fellowes. It's on HBO. Essentially, it's Downton Abbey, but set in New York. So it's about, like the wealthy families in New York City, obviously during the Gilded Age. And it focuses on them, but then there's also focus on like the downstairs staff. So very similar to Downton Abbey. You were watching part of it with me, Adam. I've only seen the first episode, but for some reason, something about the show is just not clicking with me. And I think it just seems very cheesy and fake. And I didn't get that feeling with Downton Abbey. And I think that's because as I tried to explain to you, when they filmed Downton Abbey, like in England, they still have places that look like that. Like the sets are still there. You get like you feel like you're actually in like the time period of Downton Abbey. But in Gilded Age, you can tell the sets are fabricated. They're very fake. There was some really bad CGI with like a port and some ships and things like that. And just the whole thing visually seems very fake. And I think that's why I'm not liking it so much, because I'm not like immersed in it as much as I was with Downton Abbey.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that and see that. And I was watching that scene with you with the port, and yeah, it really took me out of it too. I can honestly say I wasn't quite as focused on the show as you were at the time when we had it on TV. However, when I was watching the episode and the show, you could definitely tell the scenes where there were CGI elements integrated in there. And I don't want to be able to say that on microphone, that I can tell that it's that CGI focused and that you can clearly see the integration that well.
I think it's so hard, too, that he made a show that's essentially exactly the same as his other one, because they're so similar. We are going to compare the two together. I think maybe if he had done something like totally different, not involving, the wealthy and like the downstairs staff, and it's Downton Abbey. It's just set in New York. And I think maybe that's also where part of the like issue I'm having with it is.
I think when watching Downton Abbey, if and when there was CGI integration, it didn't pull you out of the show as much, if at all. Yeah. It just seemed like it was just in the show. It seemed like it was real in the show. That's the thing. You weren't thinking, oh, that's computer graphic, imagery that's in there.
And like, it's not even just the CGI, even just like the houses, like the sets. They just don't look real.
Right.
I don't know. I will say, though, I just finished the first episode today when you were doing something else. And I will finish this series. I definitely am interested in some of the characters and where their plot lines are going to go. So I'm going to finish it. And I think maybe when I watch a few more episodes, I'll get more invested and then I'll be happier about finishing the series. So those are the two TV shows I was on this week. I also read 2 books this last week. The first one I read was Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. She is a contemporary romance author. This is the second book in a series. Her first one was called It Happened One Summer, which is heavily influenced on like Schitt's Creek, which I loved. And it's about this wealthy girl who loses all her money and has to go to like this seaside town, and she falls in love with a fisherman, a sea captain, whatever. So this next one is about her sister who works for like movies. She's like a production assistant essentially. And she goes back to this town to film a movie, and she falls in love with one of the other fishermen there. So it was a lot of fun. And then I also read my classic for the month. I'm trying to read one classic every month. So my March one was The Time Machine by H.G. Wells.
Laura, I've already mentioned this before, but Laura is a book reading machine, and I will never be on the scale that she is when it comes to reading books. However, if anyone ever wants to talk to me about classic yacht rock music or ever wants to talk about video games, I'm an open
Adam's
palate.
your man.
let's talk about Steely Dan and go play Toe Jam and Earl or something. I'm ready.
But if it's books, you can come to me.
You go to Laura. She's the library for that.
I think that's all I wanted to talk about. You'll probably talk about the thing we went to this week. So I'll leave that to you. You can go ahead, Adam. Give me your slurps.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready to start slurping away. I'm actually slurping on a Coke Zero right now. That's how hardcore I am.
Dr. Pepper, sugar-free.
Maybe we'll get into a different kind of slurp another week, but tonight it's about taking it easy with
We're on
the zero.
our sugar-free pops.
We've been trying to be keto again, so tonight
we failed because we got pizza yesterday, but we're doing good. Other than the pizza, we're staying on keto.
The things I've been slurping this past week, I have been playing Elden Ring. And listen, if you have been playing Elden Ring and you've actually been playing it well, kudos to you. I would love to hear about it. Please let us know.
You're making it sound like you're not playing it well. You're doing well.
I would love to know about other people who are actually talented at Elden Ring, because it's really taken me quite some time to get around the Elden Ring map, and I've had to resort to YouTube tutorials to learn where some of the other bosses are and things like that, because first it started off like, there's no way I'm going to cheat in this game. I'm going to do it all on my own, going to go boss to boss, and I'll be just fine. I can do it with no guide whatsoever. And then you learn after, I have a history of playing the Demon Souls games, and I played Bloodborne. I should have already known that these NPCs in this game are not going to tell you where to go effectively.
Like, it doesn't have quests, right?
No,
like
it doesn't.
You get in Skyrim,
they do not give you indicators of where things are. You really have to find it on your own. And they kind of tell you, hey, it's east of this area, so go that direction. And they have a compass in the game, so north, south, and east and west. And if they tell you it's east of this city or this area, you can kind of map that out in your head, but you still have to go around and search yourself and hope to find the area. And the enemies and bosses are kind of hard unless you level up your character pretty high, and it takes time. So I've gotten to the point now where I'm going online and seeing, hey, where are these bosses that I need to go and destroy? Just so I kind of have an indicator of, once I level up my character far enough, then I can go to that area specifically to continue progressing in the game.
I really liked the cat boss that you were fighting today.
Yeah, that was some like a weird it's a dog, side
though.
boss.
Didn't you see? It said guard dog. That was not a dog. That was a cat.
That was definitely a cat.
It was
yeah.
It floated. It was floating.
A floating cat boss
with a giant sword
named a guard dog. Yeah, that was different, but yeah.
You beat that one pretty easy. I feel like that was like are you just really high level?
My character is a reasonably higher level, not very high,
but enough that the
side bosses are not very difficult to beat. The main bosses, that might be a little different, but yeah, I am getting there. I am starting to find my way through the game. But yes, if there's anyone out there who is also playing Elden Ring and is just destroying, yeah, I'd love to know about it, because apparently I don't watch enough TikTok like Laura does, but I guess on TikTok a bunch of people are freaking out, and Elden Ring is not their jam, because apparently they haven't played enough of the game like I have, and they just do not understand that it is not Legend of Zelda like some people are saying it is. Elden Ring is less forgiving. So other than that, I've been working on a movie with somebody I am sound designing and composing some music for, and it is almost ready to be released. I'm very excited to be able to put that out, and they are very excited to be able to release it. It's a project for them, really. I am sound designing and composing the music for, and I'm very happy to be a part of that. And I can't wait to be able to share that with people. And when that is released, I'll be updating everybody on that. And other than that as well, Laura and I went and saw the musician Caroline Rose at Shuba's, and boy, was that fun.
Such a good show.
That was just such a great time. We were right up front, right next to the stage, and Caroline Rose was really funny to watch live. I mean, not that she's
a personality. Yeah, that's what it is. Like, she's a great performer, but she's also super like down to earth and chill, and she's just very real.
Right. I mean, it's not even that she's like a comedic artist. It's just that like when she was performing, it was just like you could, it's like you could relate.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, and she sounds great.
Yeah.
The band was great. I loved their like white jumpsuits. I mean, I told you, I don't know if you heard me because it was so loud in there. When they came out though, I was like, I feel like it's like ABBA. They were all in these like all white jean like jumpsuits. I was getting very ABBA vibes.
Yeah, and you and I have been trying to keep up on going to more shows lately. So the next one we'll be seeing is Tom Misch next Tuesday.
Yeah.
So Tom Misch at
we've got a few good
Aragon
shows lined up soon. We're seeing Prep, also one of our favorite bands. We're seeing them for the second time.
It'll be great.
Yeah.
It'll be really cool. And that's really the wind on what I've been doing this past week and what's coming up. So without further ado, time for us to be talking about our film of the week, Dune. That's right, Dune. The film was released this past October 22nd. That's right, it came out on your birthday.
I didn't realize that until today.
We didn't even watch it on your birthday.
No, we watched it yesterday. We were very delayed. It's been months. We're behind. But we wanted to go see it in theaters. And then our life was just so busy during that time. I mean, we got engaged. Life was a little crazy. We missed it in theaters. And then I went to go watch it on HBO and it had been removed. And I didn't want to pay all that money to watch it on my own home TV. You know what I mean? I'd pay to go see it in a theater where you can experience it.
It was the expense of seeing it in theaters on HBO.
You're right. Like, well, no, it was free when it was on HBO and then it got taken off and you had to pay for it.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And I didn't want to pay that much money to see it on our not that our TV's small, but you know what I mean? Like in our home. And so, but finally it's back on HBO for free. So that's why we finally watched it months after it came out. Late to the party, but we're here.
That's right. That's right. So Dune was released on October 22nd, 2021. Laura's birthday, October 22nd.
Woo!
Directed by Denis Villeneuve.
Villeneuve is what I would say, yes. Very French looking. Oh, yeah, he's French-Canadian, so...
Directed by Denis Villeneuve, based on Dune by Frank Herbert, which was released in... The book was released in 1965. And this is where things get extra fun. The enormous cast of famous actors and actresses... Timothée Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, Stellan Skarsgård, Dave Bautista, Stephen McKinley Henderson, Zendaya, Chang Chen, Sharon Duncan Brewster, Charlotte Rampling, Jason Momoa, and Javier Bardem, and many more. Also, something to definitely highlight was the budget for this movie and the box office numbers. I believe these are all estimates, but the budget estimate was $165 million. Box office was right around $400.5 million. Wow. What can we really think about this? Because this is during the pandemic. Yeah. This is during COVID-19 times.
I'm surprised that like the budget, that's a lot of money. But if I think about that movie and all of the like the sets and the special effects, and it's like an epic. I'm kind of surprised the budget wasn't more.
Would you think that the budget would really be that much more for a movie like this than $165 million?
I guess I don't know what to compare it to. Is that like, what was the budget for, I don't know, Blade Runner? But that's because Blade Runner 2049 was also directed by Denis Villeneuve, however you say his name. And that's also kind of like, you know, sci-fi, a lot of stuff going on. Oh, the budget for that one was about the same amount, it's saying.
Did it reel in as much money, though?
No. Its box office was only $260 million.
See, my thing with this movie is that I think a bunch of people were probably attracted to this movie for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're probably looking at this movie with that cast list in mind, thinking, wow, Timothée Chalamet is the lead.
He's hot right now. Everyone loves him.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Okay. laugh all you want.
No,
but
I knew
to
it,
make
like-
my point, I'm thinking that there's probably a bunch of women and perhaps a lot of men too, probably thinking, wow, Timothée Chalamet, he's looking like a fox.
Not
And
even
he's
that,
the lead.
He's been in so many movies in the past few years.
Timothée Chalamet is.
I meant hot that way, not hot attractive. I meant
I meant attractive too.
I mean, he's also cute, but
he is also the world's current, Leonardo DiCaprio, basically.
Exactly.
And so he is the lead in this movie, and that's already speaking volumes. But he's backed by Oscar Isaac,
Zendaya.
Josh Brolin.
People love Zendaya right now.
Yeah, Zendaya. Also. And with all of those people backing him, that's already, a flag like, wow, like this movie's got to be something crazy. And Batista's in this.
Yeah.
And
no, you're right.
Everything else.
Batista's super popular right now because of Marvel. Oscar Isaac was just in Star Wars. So he's, really big right now, too, from that. Stellan Skarsgård, he's always been big.
But then also the movie looks enough like Star Wars that even if you had no idea what Dune was, you're like, this is basically Star Wars with all of these people.
Fun quote. Ready? Dennis, I don't want to try to keep pronouncing his name because I'm saying it wrong. It's probably Villeneuve or something. Dennis, the director, literally when he taught, I saw an article, he was talking about his idea for this movie. And he was like, I want it to be the Star Wars that I didn't get. Star Wars is very heavily influenced off of Dune, he was saying. And so he was then saying what he missed in Star Wars or what he wished he would have gotten in Star Wars. That's what he wanted this to be. He wants this to be the new Star Wars.
I can see that completely because what he made the planet look like is essentially the planet is basically Tatooine. I mean, that is essentially.
Isn't Tatooine all ice?
No, Tatooine's the sand planet.
Oh, is that where Padme's from?
Yeah.
Oh, what's
where
the
they do
do? Is Hoth the one with all the ice?
Yeah.
Oh,
Tatooine's where they do the racing.
I got you. Yeah. Oh yeah, where Anakin's from. Okay.
Yeah.
As you can tell, listener,
clearly Laura knows nothing about Star Wars
movies, but I am not very involved. I'm a Lord of the Rings girl. All right. Ask me about Lord of the Rings. I gotcha. Star Wars.
But with what you're saying about Dennis wanting this to be the Star Wars that he didn't get, that was my immediate first thought when there's a cinematography shot on the planet where the sun's rising over the sand. And they do that practically the same exact shot in, I think it's
episode 1.
I think it's episode 1, where Luke's walking in the sand, and it's like the sunrise. The sun's all purple and magenta and everything over the sands.
Well, Luke would be 4, 5, or 6, because 1, 2, 3 are Anakin.
I meant like episode 4 then.
4. Okay.
Yeah. But. My bad.
We don't know Star Wars, people. Get over it.
Don't go that far. I said episode 1 only because I meant like the time it was made.
I got you.
Sorry. Let me get my nerdism out there.
Obviously, this looks like Star Wars. I mean, they're both future, sci-fi set in space, not on Earth. So, right. You can get why Dennis looked to Star Wars for ideas and for influence.
Right. Yeah, I can understand that. I can certainly understand that. But let's jump back into the mind of Dennis and the film
what the heck is this movie about?
The film that he did create. With the beginning of the movie that he made here, if the audience came into this film just with the love for Timothée Chalamet and knowing nothing about Dune, do you think they're really gonna start to understand what's going on just from seeing the beginning of this movie? Because when I started watching this film, knew practically nothing about the Dune universe and all of that. Mm-hmm. And I can personally say that I was pretty impressed with the setup in the introduction, just because I didn't know anything about the Atreides family, or I didn't know anything about what the other alien race was. They're all
human, but the Harkonnens.
Yes, well, sure, they're all human, but they all have different names. So from their other planets.
It's like Game of Thrones. They have houses.
That's a good comparison. That's a great comparison.
Atreides, right? They're
so
like
the Atreides house. There's the Harkonnens.
They're like the Lannisters.
I called them aliens, but yes, they are all like humans. Well, I mean, the
Harkonnens have had some modifications.
Yeah, I was gonna say the one Harkonnen guy. Yeah, I mean, they all
the Baron
very
floats.
much. Yeah, like the
He's
Baron.
Got something going on.
The Baron's jacked, so and not in a muscular way. The Baron is just
fucked up.
Yeah, he is messed up. So
going back to the opening of this movie, I want to like preface this by saying I'm going to make a lot of comparisons probably to David Lynch's Dune during this. I love David Lynch's Dune. I know a lot of people are not a big fan of it, but I love it. So anything I'm saying during this time is not against David Lynch because he is the greatest man on the planet.
Even though David Lynch does not like his own Dune.
Yes. But anyway, I do think this movie did a better job of explaining things in the beginning and setting it up. You know, all I remember from David Lynch's Dune is the whispering of spice just over and over.
I mean,
and being
that's
like,
what they did.
Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? I do think this movie did a much better job of explaining like the reason, the purpose of spice, why people are fighting over it. You know, the Harkonnens controlled it and then the Emperor took it from them, gave it to the Atreides. Like it set that up. I understood it better in this movie than I did in David Lynch's.
Yeah. And you're getting that explanation in this current version of Dune from one of the Fremen. She is explaining that the Harkonnen are coming onto the planet. They are taking the spice. They give you a very elaborate explanation in the introduction about all of this and what you're saying, what the spice is, its purpose. It flows through the sand. How the time that the mining machines come down and start mining the spice, what they use it for, that gives you a very nice and elaborate explanation of all of that. And because it does that, myself as the viewer, I'm watching this and I'm hearing this like, okay, like this actually makes it much easier for me to understand the real setup of what I'm getting into. I haven't even been introduced to Paul Atreides' character yet, so I'm really, I don't know where that's coming in yet in the movie, but I understand the foundation of this movie. It sets up
like what the political conflict is.
Exactly.
Because you're realizing obviously this movie is a fight over the spice. Yeah,
the spice is very important. So I understand that now. Whereas with David Lynch's version, it just starts off and all you're getting is spice.
I'm sure he does explain things. It's like so convoluted. I mean, even in this movie, there's all these names and these and like ideas you just have to kind of like all take in with any like giant world building thing this happens. But I love David Lynch so much, but I just feel like he didn't set up well enough in his, and it was just so confusing. And this one, like you're saying, after that first opening scene, you're like, all right, I know what this is going to be about. Let me now like learn about the characters.
Exactly. I think that worked out very well.
And then I like that, like, we're seeing Arrakis, we're understanding the reasoning of spice, and then it's like, we're done with that. Now let's learn about the main characters, like the House Atreides. So it takes us right away to Caladan, and it starts like Leto, who's Oscar Isaac's character. He's the Duke, like he's the head of the house, and his son is Paul, which is Timothée Chalamet's character. And we even see like through Leto trying to kind of like get Paul to want to take over, to eventually become the Duke. He's telling him like, the Emperor has given us Arrakis. We have to go there to control the spice. But this is a power play, right? Like we're starting to become a very strong family. And the Emperor is afraid of that. Like he's afraid of the strength that we have. So we're going to go to Arrakis and we're going to mine the spice. But remember, like, it's dangerous. There's something else at play. Like Leto already knows that. He knows like this is somehow a trap. But he's hoping that they can go to Arrakis and get the Fremen on their side. So he has like a larger fighting battalion. You know what I mean? More numbers. He wants the Fremen strength to like really make the Arrakis prosper. And I liked that. I like the political intrigue that's kind of underlying this whole movie is so interesting. That like Leto would accept to go to Arrakis knowing that like he might die. Like,
Yeah.
you know, he knows something's happening. The Harkonnen wouldn't just easily give it up. They were getting like filthy rich there. He knows something's happening.
Yeah. It's crazy to hear all of that and to think that, you know, it gets that integrated and that deep, and obviously to try and understand the sort of like psychological concepts of all of that. I can understand when they start talking about all of that to be sort of like a standard to have a standard mindset going into a movie like this and think this is going to be something simple that I'm going to watch. It'll just be another sci-fi movie where it's just going from A to B and it's going to be all simple conversation. Once you start watching Dune, then you very quickly realize, no, there's a lot of characters and there's going to be a lot of political talk.
A lot going on.
In a science fiction world, especially when you see in the very beginning that they're in the year, it's like 10,200 and something, or 10,100 and
something,
24 or something. Yeah, they're many years past us, and there's a lot of political gain and loss that's on hand. And to try and begin to understand that, you have to be on the edge of your seat and understand that. All right, Oscar Isaac is trying to tell Timothée Chalamet that he might be ruling pretty soon. And of course, he's like, what are you telling me this for? Like,
he's like, I don't want to be the Duke.
Yeah, I don't want to be the Duke. Well, get ready, bucko.
But also on top of like the political intrigue that we have going on, we also are learning that Paul has some sort of power, like telekinesis.
Yeah, that's
what
some
is
of
it
the
called?
craziest stuff.
Telepathic, some kind of power.
The
voice, right? Is that what they say? The voice,
something like that.
So you kind of understand that he learned it from his mom, because she also has that power as well, Lady Jessica, and they can like speak in a certain way, and people have to follow. You know, they like can compel people essentially to do things based on their voice.
He learned the voice from Benny and the Jets.
Yeah. Adam has the hardest time remembering Benny Jesuits.
The Benny Jesuits.
So that's like the group of women where Lady Jessica came from, and they're the ones that have this power. And Jessica was supposed to have a daughter and teach her the ways of Benny Jesuits, but she was like, I'm gonna have a son. He's gonna be the Messiah that we've all prophesized about. He will save us all. And here we are.
Yeah, Benny Jesuits.
Adam earlier called them Johnny Boy. I was like, what are you talking about?
They might as well be like a 1950s rock band or something.
Like, what are they called? The Johnny Boy?
It's a plural. They're the Johnny Boys.
Johnny Boys. Benny, is it Benny Jesuits?
It's Benny Jesuits.
We'll just say Benny and the Jets. I like that better.
Yeah, it's with an R. Benny Jesuits.
Well, the Benny and the Jets.
Yeah, the Benny and the Jets.
They, you know, we learned that Timothée Chalamet, well, his name is Paul, may be this Messiah that has been prophesized to, you know, save the world, essentially.
We'll think of very fun names for all these characters, I'm sure. Paul Adidas, you know.
Speaking of names, can we talk about the name that you and I both hate in this movie?
Duncan, Idaho.
Jason Momoa's character is named Duncan, Idaho.
I want to call him Dunkin' Donuts.
We are in space. It is 8,000 years from today. Why the hell is his name Duncan, Idaho? That sounds like a cowboy's name. He is like, what is, I don't know where Jason Momoa is from. Is he like Hawaiian, or is he Samoan? From
I think
Pacific area. I'm sorry, Jason Momoa. I think he is. I think he's like Samoan, or from, you know, one of the Pacific areas. Anyway, he does not look like a Duncan, Idaho. I'm so mad.
Oh, he was born in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Oh, okay. I'm just mad. He does not look like a Duncan, Idaho. No one in this Dune world should be called Duncan, Idaho.
Duncan, Idaho. Like, no one else has a name like that at all.
Yeah,
anyways.
They all have fun. Like, I mean, Paul is kind of normal, but like
Paul
Gurney,
Atreides,
Leto, like, you know what I mean? They all have these like fancy names, and then we get
Duncan, Idaho,
like freaking Dunkin' Donuts over here. I'm so mad about it, but we can forget about Duncan, Idaho for now.
And he was like the battle master too, and then Josh Brolin steps in to be the battle master for Paul Atreides, which Josh Brolin kicks ass in this movie too.
I mean, he does in everything, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it was really cool to see him.
Though we haven't watched it. It's the remake of the Japanese film I really like.
Oh, Old Boy?
Yeah. I haven't watched it. I just
Spike Lee's version of Old Boy.
I like the Japanese one. Or is it Korean? I'm sorry.
I think it's Korean.
Yeah, the Korean version. Just so good. I just can't picture Josh Brolin in that role. But anyway.
I'd be very curious to see that.
Oh, there was one more thing I wanted to talk about before we left Caladan. Oh, the shields. The shields. Yes,
the shields actually look like they could be digital shields
I love
versus David Lynch's origami shields.
Yeah, the shields, though, you have to remember, though.
They looked like they came out of Tron and David Lynch's Dune.
Exactly. He made the movie in the 80s. You have to remember what special effects, what they could do at that time. With what he could do, he did great. He did good. I love you, David. He did what he could. But this one, the shields are much, much better.
I mean, we can't exactly put the blame on David himself for that. That's the people that were working for him probably and doing the computer effects and.
But anyway, the shields in this one are much better. And they look more believable.
Also, let's talk about the musical score for this film. It's also nominated for an Oscar right now. Hans Zimmer always killing it with the wonderful music that accompanies this film throughout the entire thing. You get a wonderful versatility of instruments and background music throughout the movie. Mm-hmm. When can Hans Zimmer ever disappoint? That's an honest question because I'm sure the man already owns probably 20 Oscars probably to his name.
He probably does. I mean, he's on the soundtrack for so many. It says actually he only has one Academy Award. That can't be true. For The Lion King?
Oh, that's pretty interesting.
That's it?
I feel like he's been nominated for everything.
He's got to have been. Yeah. Did you know, actually, Hans Zimmer turned down working on Tenet with Christopher Nolan, who he works with a lot. He turned down Tenet to work on Dune because he was obsessed with Dune, like the book, and he loved the story and he really wanted to be involved. So he turned down Tenet to do Dune.
That's pretty crazy.
I can't believe Hans Zimmer only has one Academy Award.
It's unfortunate.
That seems nuts to me. But anyways, the music is great in this movie. And also the sound effects. Adam, I was telling you a little bit earlier, I was reading an article and they were saying that of the let me look at the actual number. It's more than 2,000 visual. No, wrong part. 32,000 sounds. Out of all of the sounds that they recorded for this movie, only 4 of them were made with electronic equipment or synths. The rest of the noises are all natural things that they actually went out and did Foley for or something. And some of them were really cool. So to get the sound of spice within the sand to kind of differentiate between, spice and the sand, they put Rice Krispies in the sand and then crunched them and moved them around.
See, that's the magic of sound design. That is the way you do it. And I love that thought process. Rice
Krispies are then what are used in the movie. And then also to emulate the sound of the worms traveling under the sand, they put a condom over a mic and drug it underneath the sand in the ground.
See, some people just don't think of stuff like that, but really that's just all it takes sometimes is just that kind of ingenuity
going
when you're doing sound design. Yeah, exactly. And I love doing that kind of stuff when I'm doing sound design on projects, is just messing around because you really don't know what you'll find just by fooling around sometimes. When you're doing sound design, you get some really interesting sounds. Most of the time by accident. You really don't even imagine the kind of sounds you'll get just by doing some ridiculous things sometimes.
I just like the idea that it's like you're saying, just household things. This movie, this grand movie that's, nominated for best picture and all this, it's Rice Krispies and a condom, it's just really funny.
That's why you always, with Foley Studios and sound design and things like that, always keep just obnoxious things around to do sound design. Because you never know when you'll need that, shake of a cereal box and things like that. What else can you do with that cereal other than just shaking the cereal box? When do you think you'll need to step on those, Rice Krispies? Or what about celery sticks and things like that? Because breaking celery and vegetables like that could be your bones cracking.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's crazy. Like, I loved, what's that one documentary or something that you showed me that was about Foley artists for, was it Disney? They were like showing all the funky things they created to like make different sounds. I feel like it was for Disney.
I'll pull it up again.
I don't know. Just like the idea of Foley, which is maybe why I like you so much, babe. This is what you do. Like, it's just so cool to me. Learning what's going on in the background.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff that goes into doing sound design. And I very much enjoy designing sound effects and helping people out with sound design and doing mix on the projects and work. It is a lot of fun, especially when you get music involved into stuff too. And there's also great sound design you can do with musical instruments as well. It's not just in the music, but you can also do great sound design utilizing instruments as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, enough on sounds. Let's get back to the movie. Where are we at? We're essentially at the part right where they arrive on Arrakis. We kind of talked about all that happens at Caladan.
Arrakis.
A desert planet.
Makes me think of arachnids.
Yeah. Well, it's worms, not spiders.
Dang.
But yeah, so the Atreides, they arrive in Arrakis. We learned that like the Harkonnens have really fucked them over. Like they left a bunch of crap, a broken equipment, and it's going to take Atreides like a while to get the spice production back up and running.
Yeah, a worm eats one of their giant spice miners.
Yeah. People are trying to kill Paul. It's like a whole thing going on.
Yeah, the Fremen, they have one Fremen who says that she will help them actually mine the planet and things like that, which is actually very surprising to me that there's one who's kind of a local Fremen, but also
the
willing
doctor?
to help them. Yeah.
She worked for the Emperor.
That's what a strange turn of events. She
was Fremen, but she wasn't Fremen, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of that. She was, because she said she was like accepted in both communities.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, I didn't totally understand where she stood, because in the beginning it seemed like she was on the Emperor's side, but then later on, as we'll get to it, it seemed like she was on like the Fremen side. So I was a little confused.
Yeah. And even the Atreides were like, who are you helping? You're with them,
right?
Or
like,
you're with us?
You had to have known that the Harkonnens did this, like left us this crap.
Yeah, and then she says, "I vowed not to say
she's
anything."
Like, I can't say. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what does that mean? Yeah,
what's happening? But yeah, as we're talking about the Harkonnen, God, Stellan Skarsgård is the Baron.
That was great.
I will say, the Baron in David Lynch's was so like disgusting. Remember, he had like all those boils on his skin, and he was just like, you like hated him instantly. And I feel like in this one, Stellan Skarsgård, he's like a walrus. He's just like this big, flumpy thing that like floats around.
Stellan Skarsgård as the Baron is still kind of gross, but at least he's not
in a different way.
Ooze.
Yeah, in a different way. Stellan Skarsgård's a great actor, though. Didn't we just watch something with him where I was like going on and on about Stellan Skarsgård? I know we're watching the Marvel movies and he's in there.
Yeah, I don't know what else we watched.
He's in lots of things. I love the Skarsgård family. I could go on about them, but I won't do that in this episode. But yeah, so they're in Arrakis. Things are not going great. And then that doctor turns on them all and betrays them.
That's right.
Doctor,
which doctor?
The one with the diamond on his head. The one that betrays them and like gives them Leto.
I know I couldn't tell if you were talking about the Fremen doctor or.
No, I'm talking about you now, the traitor.
Yeah. Well, the Baron had his wife, and so Dr. Yu thinks that if he brings in the Duke incapacitated to the Baron, that he'll get his wife back.
Yeah. So essentially, he like puts down their shields. The Harkonnen arrive. Leto's captured. Lots of people are killed. But Paul and his mom, are able to escape. Duncan is also able to escape. So they're out in the desert now. But unfortunately, Leto, Oscar Isaac, my love.
Bless his soul.
He has to die. And he tried to take out the Baron with him.
Yep.
He tried.
He
killed a lot of Harkonnens.
Via poison gas in his tooth.
He tried, but he didn't get the Baron, unfortunately. But Oh man, Oscar Isaac. Whenever I think of Oscar Isaac, I think of Inside Llewyn Davis and you singing the like outer
space. That was my first thought when I saw him in this movie.
Even though it's not even him, that's Adam Driver, but still, it's like, well, it's Oscar Isaac's movie, but the outer space thing is Adam Driver. But
outer space.
It's just so funny. But our poor Leto is dead.
Yes. And you weren't expecting Duncan Idaho to get killed either, but I remembered in the beginning of this film, Paul Atreides mentions to Duncan Idaho that he had a dream where Duncan was murdered, and Duncan in the beginning was saying, "Oh, no, that wouldn't happen." And of course it inevitably does.
Yeah, not till later though. He's okay right now when Paul and Jessica escape. Duncan also escapes, and he goes to the Fremen.
Yes.
And so Paul and Jessica are out in the desert. They're trying to find the Fremen. They're trying to survive and not get eaten by worms, traversing around. And then they eventually do find the lady doctor. Mm-hmm. And like she tries to help them. That's when Duncan dies.
Right.
Because the Emperor's like soldiers find them.
Yeah. And so Duncan
he goes
thinks he
out
can take them on.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he knew he would actually survive. I think he was just like, I can delay them so that Paul and Jessica can escape. I think that's what his thought was. He probably knew he was going to die or had a good chance of dying.
It's unfortunate.
But unfortunately, we lose our Duncan.
Our Dunkin' Donuts.
But Paul and Jessica escape. And they go out and they get stuck in a big old sandstorm. It's like, Adam, you don't know this movie as much, but The Mummy, when Brendan Fraser is in like the airplane flying and the mummy guy like builds up the big sandstorm to like attack them, and it like devours them with the sand. That's what I was thinking of in this one, because they fly into that sandstorm and then they're just like, woo, getting like whipped around.
Yeah. That was a trippy scene. I'm not going to lie. When they go in that sandstorm, I was just thinking, is this turning into an art film at this point where we're just in the sandstorm and just watching this sandstorm? And it kind of felt like I was in, the Stanley Kubrick movie.
Clockwork Orange.
Yes. It felt like I was in Clockwork Orange, the scene where he's got his eyes spread out and he's just watching those
I haven't seen Clockwork
crazy
Orange,
like montage of movies and just freaking out. And
that's what you thought of,
that's
like the plane
like,
flipping around.
Yes. Like I was just sitting there like tripping, watching this montage of movies because I'm just watching a nonstop sandstorm. It was a bit more relaxing than having to watch a montage of movies. But yeah, just being in that sandstorm, it was really just feeling like, are we going to get out of this sandstorm? Like, we're just chilling here.
Yeah, it was definitely, I think they were trying to use that as like Paul realizing that he could like follow his power and his intuition, right? Because he was like hearing something talk and it was like, go with the flow.
Yeah, I remember that.
Hey,
and then yeah, he just kind of like he turned off parts of the plane and he just kind of like
whip around.
It looked like he was like getting high basically on life, not on weed, but on life.
Well, the spice is kind of a hallucinogen. And he did hallucinate, like have a vision with the spice earlier when the worm attacked like the giant sand thing. Mm-hmm. So maybe he was, just getting high on spice. Getting overwhelmed by the spice. Having his little visions.
Having a spice high. He's like, oh wow.
Hey.
Maybe there was spice in the sandstorm, and he's like,
yeah, Adam, there's spice in the sand, of course.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yes, and he's flying in the sandstorm, and he's getting like a spice high.
Yeah.
Connecting the dots here. I see what we're doing. Visions, yeah.
But they survive the sandstorm, just like Brendan Fraser does in The Mummy.
My gosh.
And we're almost to the end of the movie. I mean, right after that is when they run into the Fremen, right? Javier Bardem's character.
Yes.
It's not too long after that where they find them.
You never have too much Javier Bardem.
Yeah, he was just in the movie that we reviewed last week.
Yeah, right.
We get to see
I Love
again.
Lucy. It'd be funnier if he was Desi again in this movie.
Instead, I think his character's name is Stilgard. Something like that. And it seems to be like the leader of this little group of Fremen that Paul and Jessica come upon. And at first the Fremen are like, we need to kill you. You know, like the water in your suits is worth more to us than your body, like than you.
Well, there's one Fremen in particular that really wants to kill them. And then Javier Bardem's character, Stilgard, is like, no, I give them my blessing
essentially. Yeah.
And I know this one, and we can welcome them as a part of us. And then the one who is really not about that is like, no, I challenge your, representative or whatever to fight to welcome you into us, or however you want to phrase that.
Right, because he challenged Jessica, essentially. He didn't want her to go. I mean, they know she's like a Bene Gesserit or whatever. Yeah. And I think they're probably afraid of her. She's like a witchy woman, right? Yeah. And so Paul is like, steps up as her champion and fights this guy. And you can tell Paul is much stronger than him. Like, he has him at like a death point like 4 times. And that's when...
Well, they didn't expect that.
No, they thought he would be weak. They thought he was going
to be like super weak compared to him.
Yeah, but he keeps besting him. And that's when Stilgard is like, is he toying with him, messing with him? And Jessica's like, no, he's never killed a man before. And so then Paul does kill him, and he kills his first man. And by doing that, though, he's essentially like accepted now into the Fremens. They're like, you're one of us, which is good. I think he knew that was where he needed to be, right? He kept seeing those visions of Zendaya, and Zendaya's with this group of people. So he's like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Me as the Messiah, right? I'm supposed to help the Fremen and control the spice and like defeat the Harkonnens who have killed my father. So,
which is one of the last things he explains to his mom, is she's like, do we need to get out of here? And
like, we need off planet.
Yeah. And he explains to her, no, this is where I'm supposed to be. I need to be with the Fremen and help them. That's what Dad would have wanted.
Yeah. So it all comes full circle. And that's the end. Like, this movie is only half, as we know, like when it started, it says Dune Part 1. David Lynch's Dune was the whole first Dune book in one. And this one, they're splitting it up, which I think is good, because there's so much going on. And I think by splitting it in 2, they're able to give more of those details and make things a little more understandable.
Well, there's just so much to Dune in general anyways. Yeah. As Laura and I learned from our research, there were 6 books of Dune that were written by Frank Herbert. And there are many, many more, an incredible amount written,
I think it was like 26
by his son. Yeah, there's so many more that continue on past his that were written by his son. But the original author, Frank Herbert, he wrote 6.
Which is still a lot.
Which is, still
for a sci-fi series of this like magnitude. That's a lot of books.
Yeah. So there's a lot to be learned of Dune.
We're only got one tiny little part so far.
Yep.
I'm excited for part 2. I think, though, it said it wasn't coming out till like October of 2023.
We got some time.
So we have a while. Because they did it, like Lord of the Rings, I think Star Wars too, they filmed all of the movies at once. Like, they filmed Fellowship, like, what's the next one? Two Towers and Return of the King, like one after another. But because Dune hasn't done well in the past, David Lynch in the miniseries, they didn't greenlight a part 2 right away. Like, they didn't greenlight the part 2 until I think like the second week the movie was in the box office. So, therefore they couldn't start filming part 2 when they were right after part 1, because they didn't know if they were even going to have a part 2. So it'll be interesting to see how they like pick back up and carry it along after not.
Now they're like, let's make sure this is going to be good.
I think, they're like, let's make sure we're not losing a shit ton of money before we start filming part 2. Fair. But
I mean, it did like twice its budget in the box office, so
it did well. And I think it's just going to keep doing well. Like, everyone seemed to really like this movie. So even though it didn't have Sting in it.
Yeah. Well,
he was supposed to make a cameo, I was reading, but it just...
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just didn't work out, though.
Maybe he'll make a cameo in the second one.
Maybe. I'm trying to think if there's other little fun facts I have that I haven't said yet, since we're kind of like near the end of things. Speaking of Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson was very interested in directing the Dune film.
That would be interesting.
I think he could have done okay. I don't know if he would have done
different.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as good as this one, I don't think. And that's nothing against Peter Jackson. That's just like the aesthetic is not Peter Jackson.
Right, I agree.
I just, yeah. Go for it. You got something you want to bring up? Oh, the sandworms were only in the movie for a grand total of 1.5 minutes. Gazoom type.
Oh, sandworms. The true love. Sandworms, talk about being like Star Wars. Are the sandworms not the same as the freaking... and I'm at a loss of words at this point. But there were, just like the sandworms in Dune, they had giant worms like that in Star Wars.
I don't remember. Probably.
No, they did.
They make me think of Tremors.
Oh, they do have worms in Tremors, too.
I mean, that's the... Yeah,
yes,
Tremors is...
No, they do.
But it's exactly like Tremors, I bet you, is based off of Dune. Because it the rhythmic is how the Tremor monsters find them, the worms.
But no, they do have worm monsters in Star Wars, just like that. If you remember the Star Wars, I think it's episode 6 or something, where they go to Jabba the Hutt. They have that huge battle outside of Jabba the Hutt and everything like that, and they're shooting at like Boba Fett and everything like that. I think I think that when they shoot at Boba Fett, they shoot him into
one of the worms. I think you're right. When they're on that platform and they fall in. Yeah. That's a worm.
Yeah. They have a name. I can't remember it at the moment. There's a name for the Star Wars worms.
Though,
I can't remember
think of Tremors, and now that I'm thinking about it, Tremors has to be based on Dune. They're exactly the same, just not as big, and they don't ride them. We didn't get to really see any of the worm riding in this one. Definitely part 2. I think there'll be a lot of worm riding because that's the whole, when Paul becoming a Fremen and whatnot, he learns to ride them. It'll be fun.
Sarlacc. That's what they're called. The Sarlacc Pits.
Man, sci-fi just likes worms.
Yeah.
Giant worms.
Because, they would always make threats to be like, throw them in the Sarlacc Pit.
Yeah. No, that sounds really familiar now that you're saying it. I got it.
But yeah, I think that about brings us to our reviews of Dune at this time. And to talk about some of our favorite reviews, there's a site that we like to use called Rotten Tomatoes to go to for reviews. And taking a look at that, 84% from critics and a 90% from the audience on Dune, the 2021 Dune. Wow. I can see where that's coming from. Laura, would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, people loved it. Everyone was talking about it. So I am not surprised that the audience score is 90%. And honestly, I would think maybe the critics would be a little higher just based on how everyone's been obsessed over this.
Yeah, I would think that perhaps critics might give this a little bit of a higher rating with the cast and with the performance and maybe even with, the music and the way everything looks in this movie. Mm-hmm. But with the audience score at 90, I can see where that's coming from. Is there any other possible articles out there or critic sites that you saw that had similar or even ratings that disagreed with that?
Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 stars. So pretty, because 4, I always forget the number of stars that they give as the highest. It's 4, right?
Yeah.
So, that's pretty similar.
Yeah.
It's about the same score. I think a lot of people were just impressed in how, as we said in the beginning, he was able to set up and kind of explain things. And visually, so much is happening. The effects are great in this movie. The music's great in this movie. The acting's great. He's dealing with such a dense world building, but he does a really good job of setting it up and thinking this is just part 1. The point of this movie was to set everything up. So just imagine what part 2 is going to be like.
I hear what you're saying. I can see what you're saying. And I know what you're saying. And with that in mind, that brings us to our slurps up and slurps down section. What that means is slurps up means we think this movie is worth watching. We recommend it and we think you should go check it out. Slurps down means we think this movie is not worth watching. We do not recommend it. And we think you should definitely avoid this movie at all costs. Laura, slurps up or slurps down?
No surprise, and I don't think I can say any more than I've said through the whole episode, honestly. I give this movie a slurps up. I think, as I just kind of said, visually, this movie is stunning. The acting is really great. It's such an interesting world. And I mean, that's due to Frank Herbert. You know, Dennis was just following what he already had. But like, it's such an interesting story. And, you know, in the grand scheme of things, maybe it's not anything super new. Like, it's essentially Christianity, you know, like Paul is Jesus and he's the Messiah. We got all that going on. It's nothing really new. But at the same time, it's just beautifully done. Beautifully done. I will say watch this one first and then go watch David Lynch's, because you need to have a little bit of understanding before you watch David Lynch's. So slurps up. I don't know what else to say, really. What about you, Adam?
I can't say that I agree more. Absolutely going to give this one a slurps up. This movie has got so much going on for it. The cast is absolutely phenomenal. I think the story speaks for itself when everything is explained very well. Even if you get a little bit lost throughout the introduction, you know, it's a very intense sci-fi film in the fact that there are a lot of characters. There might be a lot going on in terms of, as Laura and I were explaining, there's a bit of a political backstory going on between the families and things like that. Laura compared it to Game of Thrones in the sense that there's multiple families and multiple things going on in that sense. But just be aware that as you watch this movie, you're going to have to keep your mind open and understand that kind of stuff going on. And with that in mind, know that it's a wonderful movie, though. It's just great. It looks fantastic. It sounds fantastic. The music's fantastic, and the acting's fantastic. And I can't say that this movie is absolutely flawless. I don't think that it's perfection, but at least if I had to give it a score out of 100%, like we were looking at the critics' reviews, I would definitely put it very high up there. I would watch it again and again, over again. I think it's definitely in the 90% range, like we were just reading about. I definitely think it's high up there. It was really good. I liked it a lot. So definitely give this one a slurps up. I loved it. I thought it was wonderful. So
I just, as a sidetrack, did some Googling. I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were done. So my bad.
Oh no, you're good.
I just wanted to verify, because I honestly cannot believe that Hans Zimmer only has one Academy Award, but it's true. He's been nominated 12 times and he's only won once for The Lion King, which is baffling to me.
I wonder if the Academy is just like, we just can't award Hans Zimmer all the time.
I mean, so I'm looking at the list of what he was nominated for, like Dunkirk, Interstellar, Gladiator, The Prince of Egypt. The Prince of Egypt has one of the best like scores ever. I cannot believe the only time he's ever won is The Lion King. That seems like such a tragedy. I hope he wins.
Can they at least give it to him for Dune now? Let's be real here.
Who else is let's see who else is nominated actually though for best. So Don't Look Up, Dune better beat Don't Look Up. That's what I'm saying. And Kanto, Parallel Mothers, I'm not even sure what that one is, and The Power of the Dog.
I'm not gonna lie, Encanto might win.
I think it'll win for best song. I don't think it's gonna win for best score.
It's fair. That is fair.
I think Dune has a really good chance, actually.
I think the score on Dune is just absolutely phenomenal.
No,
there's such a variety
good
in it. You hear so many different instruments, so many different styles.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think Encanto is going to win. It might win best song. It's not going to win original score. I don't think. Dune, I think, has a really good chance.
There's such flexibility in this score and like versatility. That's what really blows my mind. Is like 1 second you've got one type of music going on, 1 minute you got a different type of music going on, another minute you've got, you know, bagpipes and other things going on. I'm like, dang, Hans Zimmer, you're really mixing it up.
I'm thinking the only one maybe that could be competition is The Power of the Dog, which we haven't watched yet. So I'm not sure like how good that, you know, original score is.
Well, listeners, be prepared because you might have something special coming up.
We might do an episode. We're very behind. We're trying to watch all of the the best films that we can.
Well, with that being said, that wraps it up for this episode of Screen Slurps. Be sure to follow us on social media at Screen Slurps on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And be sure to listen to us on Spotify, Ghana, or just about any other podcast streaming service out there. And if you enjoy what you hear, slide on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating. It will help us a lot. And if there's any crazy movies you want to hear about, let us know. Leave a comment on one of our social media pages. And trust me when I say we will be sure to talk about it. So, closing out, I'm Adam Meisner.
I'm Laura Erlacher.
Slurps up, and we will catch you later.
Later.